We're before Shira and Hanukkah, and every year you go through a Shira on a certain subject on a certain moed during a certain Chag. But I think sometimes it connects to the days that you are standing inside of, and therefore I wanted to bring out a couple important ideas that really connects Hanukkah to the times that we're standing in right now, because I think there's a lot to connect to. Let's start with a little bit of history, though. I just want to start with a little bit of historic events, because people speak about certain subjects, but they don't really know about the history that goes behind it. So as we know, one of the events that happened approximately 2,200 years ago was a great man by the name of Alexander the Great. He was the one who was in charge of the Greek Empire, and he was able to make them the superpower of the time. He made them being able to be overpowered. And then he had a sudden death at a very young age. He barely hit 40. And he died at a very young age. And as a result of that, because it was so sudden, there was a tremendous split in the empire. And they started fighting amongst each other to know who would take over this incredible royalty, to be able to take care of this incredible place. One of the prime leaders, who was the head of the Seleucids in Greece, his name was Antiochus, Antiochus, the one you might be familiar with. Antiochus was considered from one of the most powerful groups that broke off. There was 4 groups that broke off. He had a tremendous apathy, a hate for the Ptolemies, who were the other side, and they had many civil wars amongst each other. So he felt that he was a reincarnation, as they say, Gilgul, of Alexander the Great, and he said he was going to take over the whole entire world. He was ready to finish up the empire and make sure he conquers everything. He held that he was a god, like many of these Chaver did, and as a result of that, he was very, as they say, into himself. That's something we're too surprised about hearing some Greek leaders. In order to do that, he wanted to go, as they say, down south. He started to go towards Egypt. He wanted to go towards Egypt and destroy Egypt, and then eventually towards Africa also. We know Alexander got most of the known world of the time, which is a lot of Europe, most of Europe. But he wanted to go down south to Africa. Now we all know the greatest channel to get down to Egypt and then eventually to Africa is through Judah, what's known as Israel these days, but that then known as Judah. He wanted to go down in that direction, and therefore he needed Israel out of his way. Now he didn't want to conquer us or destroy us. He just wanted us to be humbled. Surprise, surprise, Jews can be a little bit stubborn sometimes. Kshei oref, we could be obnoxious, not listen to leaders, as we've maybe been so familiar with sometimes. And therefore, he just wanted us to be humble, to acquiesce to everything he says, do whatever he does. And part of that meant resign your religion. Just be like us. When in Rome, do like the Romans, or in this case, when in Greek, do like the Greeks. Just basically wanted to say, be like us, and therefore they made many gzeirot against our religion. Again, he wasn't looking to kill us. He was no Hitler. He was no Haman. That wasn't his interest. He was just looking to try to get rid of our individuality from us being too separate from them. That's all he really wanted us to be. Now, the best way to do this, and this is unfortunately something that has happened over and over again in our history, is to go from amongst us. There were a lot of Hellenists. These are what we call the Modernim, the people that are sometimes go off the derech, and from within, they sometimes can beat us out from without. In other words, they can go ahead and take care of us in a way that's unprecedented. As we all know, when you deal with people from inside, it's much more dangerous. So there were many Hellenists that were coming about at the time that were going ahead and going up with the Greek gods, going into mythology, starting to focus on all their beliefs. And they knew that if they would be able to take power over Judah, so then we're good. We'll be able to go back and forth freely. We'll be able to do what's necessary as much as we need. That was what their prime interest was. Great. That was his idea. So here it is. There was a Kohen Gadol who was a big tzaddik. His name was Chonio. He lived in 174 BCE. That's about 200 years before the Churban of the Beit HaMikdash. 200 years before the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. This person named Chonio was a big tzaddik, and he was very upset about this situation, but he didn't do much. He had a brother who was already Hellenized, what we call an enlightenment movement, a person who went after went after them, and he really wanted the point of power. Being the Kohen Gadol meant that you were the leader of the Jewish people, more or less. He wanted to go ahead and be he wanted to take over his brother's position as Kohen Gadol. So he slipped a few bucks, as usually how it is, to Antiochus and his merry men. And he ended up taking the position of Chonio. He ended up becoming Kohen Gadol. What a great way to become Kohen Gadol. He ended up becoming the leader. His name was Jason, this person. He obviously changed his name. But anyways, his name was Jason. He was the one who took over. And he was the one who was doing all of Antiochus' work for him, more or less. He was going ahead and putting gymnasiums right next to the Beit HaMikdash. The gymnasium was a place of, now these go together in German literature. It was also learning, meaning education, at the same time as sports. It was the same thing. The worship of the body, of greatness, whether it's from smarts down to the physical body. We know that they had a tremendous arena for going and focusing on the physical body. All of their gods had to do with the koch of the physical body. Aphrodite, Zeus, Apollo, all of these gods that they put inside of every stadium were dressed around the whole stadium. These gods, they worshipped them, they bowed down to them. They worshipped the physical body, they amongst each other, these gods, Ke'ilu. For anyone who had education when we were younger, we had to go, I remember when I was younger, I had to do, in English, they used to make us read this garbage book. I have no idea why I had to read mythology. I went through all the stories of mythology where they go ahead and they, that was their thing. Now, obviously, their sports, similar to the sports we have these days, but a little bit different, you should know. Our sports, when we compare it to our sports, which is also true, which we'll speak about, is a little bit commercial team sports, all right? They're usually playing together, they're professional team sports. One team plays against the other, and they make a few dollars here and there, a little bit more than what we make. Okay? But that's really what it's about. However, their sports was a little bit different. It wasn't a team sport, more or less. It was much more of an individualized growth of a person. His capabilities that an individual can go ahead and strengthen himself up to be able to run the long miles or the sprints, something we're very familiar with from the Olympics. And most of the Olympics, the majority of the Olympic Games are individuals. They're individuals running, whether it's ski events or, like I said, running events or hurdles, sprints, and all these types of ideas that happen. The sports events that happen in the Olympics wasn't from Greece. That's our own thing that they kind of added on to the Olympics afterwards. You know, they have basketball or these types of sports events, that's events that happen afterwards. Everything that had to do with Greece was the individual with all his strength and beauty going ahead and trying to overpower the other person. Of course, everyone knows the very famous gladiators that they fought one against the other, tremendous competition, whether it was types of wrestling or boxing. The closest thing we have to this at this time is boxing. When you see boxing, you could think of, wow, this is Greek culture at its best. Just each guy trying to beat the other guy, and he finally wins with a bloody, everything half a face, and everything's droopy, and this, and they raises his hand in absolute success. Wow, what a point of gaiva, of success, of a feeling, how exhilarating. But anyways, that's exactly what they were vouching for, okay? The survival of the fittest, the strongest. That was what they were doing, and that's what Jason was bringing in. He wanted to put it next to the Beit HaMikdash, higher education, to be able to change a little bit. That's what he did, and the Hellenists were becoming rampant. Much like the Enlightenment movement that we had 100 years ago, same type of thing. And like we said, from within is always the worst. You know, in the Shoah, if anyone reads a little bit about the Holocaust, the people that were the most dangerous were people that were known as the capos. The capos were the ones who were Jews within the barracks, that they were the ones who were atrocious. They were the most vicious ones to us. They did the job for the SS. Because they always wanted to get on their good side, so they're the ones who always did their work. Anyways, so that's what he did. Now, as it usually works with these types of things, eventually the one who was under Jason, his servant, paid off a little bit of the higher servants, a guy named Millennius, and he actually took the place of Jason. He got forfeited, and another guy came and took his place, and that's what happened. Now, at this stage, it was getting out of hand. Jews were getting killed with no end. It was done ruthlessly. And again, it wasn't done for no reason, ki'ilu. It was done only if they caught you serving religion. A Brit Milah, a person keeping Shabbat, there was a cave full of people, that they were hiding 1,000 people, that they did the sin of doing the Brit Milah, and they were also keeping Shabbat during the Shabbat time over there, and they were caught, and they burnt the cave. They burnt the cave and killed all 1,000 people inside of it. Chana and her 7 sons was during this time period. It was during this time period that insisted that they bow down, and when each one of her 7 sons, till the little, to the smallest one, didn't, they were all killed, including Chana. So we know that this was a very treacherous, downtrodden, and I'm on purpose bringing out how difficult this scenario was. Now from here, of course, we know there was a great man, a man by the name of Matityahu, who was already very elderly, he was no young chicken. He was very, he was on his, almost his last legs, as they say. And he decided that this is enough. Raftet rivam dantem tinam. We read in the Alanis, when we say Raftet rivam dantem tinam, we say that a Kadosh Baruch Hu fought, he fought our fights, and he done our din. He done our din. What do you mean our din? We fought his fights, not the other way around. We're saying Raftet rivam, Hashem, you fought our fight. What do you mean? He fought his own fight. We were here fighting for him. But the answer is that Matityahu took it in a way that he was fighting his own fight. No, this is treacherous. This cannot. What bothers a Kadosh Baruch Hu bothers me. It was in his blood that it so disturbed him that we can't hold back. And he went ahead and did, if I could say, almost a suicidal war. Him and his 5 sons. He only had 5 sons, and they went ahead, and of course went ahead to go ahead and fight against the whole Roman Empire. The name was Yonatan, Yochanan, Yehuda, Elazar, and Shimon. These are the 5 sons. Now these 5 children of his went ahead and they made a milchama to go against. Now they couldn't do it themselves, probably, so they recruited a whopping 5,000 to 6,000 people. Wow. Against literally tens of thousands of soldiers. Now remember, we're not talking about machine guns here. We're talking about hand-to-hand combat. First of all, I don't know how much strength you can have after killing a few people. You're like wiped out. It's a little bit hard. That's first of all. And second of all, when you're surrounded from all ends, you have to be Bruce Lee to be able to pull this out. How do you get the back and the front, the sides? It's an almost impossible mission to do such a thing. Besides the fact that these guys were raised from the time that they were 2 to be able to be fighters. It's not like they were people that also learned to be in the army. The people who were in the army were people that's what their job was from young age, that they were meant to be. Josephus points this out. That they were meant to be this from the beginning. That was their whole objective. We all know Matityahu, like I said, he was an elderly man with his 5 children. They were sitting in the Beit Midrash all day. They weren't the thing. They weren't giving off any type of impression. But they led out a prayer to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and they called themselves Maccabi Mika Mocha Bakelim Hashem, who is like you, who is comparable to you in the amongst all the other gods, meaning all the mythological gods. No one can stand up to you, and therefore we are fighting your fight. And before they went out to battle, I don't recommend doing this. They fasted. They fasted the day before you got to battle. It's not something usually so highly recommended. On Motzei Yom Kippur, I don't really feel like going out to fight. It's not usually the best time to pull that off. Anyways, so that's what they did in this plea to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, this suicidal kind of type of war, but the energetic feeling of I'm here to do the Ratzon Hashem. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu is here and he wants me to do this and I felt that this is the right thing to do, I'm going to do what he asked me to do. I will do his beckoning. And they did it and they vanquished. And they vanquished and Baruch Hashem, they were able to succeed. Now most people just see it as one war. It wasn't. It was a 3-pronged war. Antiochus was enraged. He was furious about what happened. And therefore, he sent double the amount of people with many generals on the 2nd and 3rd spring in order for them to conquer. Now, eventually they conquered. I'm going to tell you how soon, but I'm going to just stop before I tell you how it happened, just to tell you that we see from here the incredible power of what we call Mesirat Nefesh for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They went ahead and did it because they felt it was the right thing to do. And therefore they made a war that they felt was maybe unprecedented, but necessary to be done. And they did it because they felt that we had to go ahead and fight HaKadosh Baruch Hu's war. We cannot let this continuing. People are fighting to hold on to religion. And they went out of their way in order to make this incredible Muhammad. That's this incredible story and this feeling that we get from Hanukkah. Now, when we light candles, I want to explain, make us understand what some people might be making a mistake or misunderstanding of what Hanukkah is really about, now that we understand a little bit of the story. And again, I'm not finished with the story, but we'll put it in soon, the second part of the story. But I want to get a correction. Most people, again, I don't think it's amongst the religious, if I could say it's amongst more of the non-religious, have encountered this religion, and it's a big religion over here in this country, a big chag, a big holiday in this country, as a religion of conquest, of vanquish, of being able to have a tremendous amount of strength, to be able to be mitgaber. It's an irony. It's a very ironic idea. The fact that they go ahead and express it in a way as it has to do the power of man and how strong we are. And they went ahead and fought back. And unfortunately, like I said, I'm going to put the theme in perspective. That became the theme of the holiday, so to speak. When we know, as I just gave you an introduction, that these people were completely weaklings. They were not people who were on the gym. They were not people who were working out, who were pumping iron. That's not what was happening. Matichau, as I was on his last legs, he only was around for one more year. After he started the rebellion, he was niftar naturally within a year. That's it. And he gave it over to Yehuda. Yehuda, his son, ended up being the leader, the general of the next two wars. He only won the first war. By the time the second war ran, Matichau wasn't even around anymore. And it's seen as a type of fight, which means that we always have to go ahead and fight to the finish and be able to do what we can do. What we say, and is usually coined, is the words kochi ve'otzem yadi, the strength of my power, my own individual strength. Now, like we said before, Maccabee stands for Mi Kamocha B'Kelim Hashem. That was their tefillah, that was the davening that they did before they went out to war. Mi Kamocha B'Kelim Hashem. The great strength of Hashem. And here it is, what did they name their basketball team? The basketball team and the soccer team, the football team over here in Israel, is of course named Maccabee. You know why it's called Maccabee? Because it shows the strength, it shows the capabilities, it shows that we have vanquished, it shows that we have won. Do you realize the irony? The exact sports team, which is the epitome of what Hellenism and the idea of all of Greece was all about, became a sports team. 1 second, that doesn't make so much sense. They, at least don't call it Maccabee, call it the Hellenized or something like that. So they have a different abbreviation, which seems a little bit more appropriate, which for Maccabee stands for Mikan Bichlal Yehudi, who really is a Jew here anyways, who on the team is anyways really Jewish. And it happens to be factual. I'll be honest with you, I was one time on a plane going back to the States, one time on an El Al flight, and I was sitting next to a chap who was about twice my height and had a little bit more color than me. And he was, he was a very, and I was like, oh wow, how are you? What are you doing here? You came in, he was talking to me, he actually wanted to ask me some questions about Judaism. So I spoke to him, I said, what are you here for? He said, well, I'm here to play in the Maccabee team. They recruited me to play in the Maccabee team. I said, oh, really? I asked him, I could be, my wife wasn't there, so I sometimes could be very chofer, as they say, a little obnoxious. So I said, oh, are you Jewish? And this, he goes, no, I'm not Jewish at all. What does it have to do with Judaism? I'm here to play in the basketball team. That's what it was. It means the majority of the team has nothing to do, they just take on teammates that will win the team. So I don't understand how people are standing in the crowd and going, yay, my team won, when they have nothing to do with you. They come from the States, or they come from all places, all sides of the universe. But anyways, that's what they go ahead. They've kind of taken the ideology of what Hanukkah is all about in order to be able to feel and connect to something much greater, to understand that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is behind us. And they went ahead and made the mistake of calling that what a Maccabee is about going ahead and chasing after the sports. One time, we have a friend of the family, my wife's friend, that they come from modern parents. So they bought for them a present, they bought them a menorah. This was back over a decade ago. They bought for them a menorah. So what was in the menorah? Holding each one of the lights was a different sports player. Basketball, baseball, soccer, football. Each one had a boxing. Each one this can say. I said, oh, look at our Yevanim. Baruch Hashem, Yevanim that are here. We have our Greeks that are able to hold up our Chanukiah lights in order to do it. What I'm saying is there seems to be some ironic mistake, dissidence that occurred during the celebration of this incredible Chag that we have, that are focused on the wrong side of the team. We're focused on the other side of the team. I'm not necessarily doing that. And that's the idea that we see when we go through the story and we see that before they fought, their whole idea was going ahead and fasting. They said, Mila Shem Alai. He cried out to everybody, saying, who could be? And that's the greatness of what this whole Chag is about. The similar idea occurred also by Yom HaShoah. As we know, there's a day that's known here as Yom HaShoah, which is a nice idea. It's a good idea, Yom HaShoah. We also celebrate Yom HaShoah. We also have a day that's called Yom HaShoah. It's called Tisha B'Av. On Tisha B'Av, which is when the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash happened, so too also we understand what happens to be when, during that time period, that's when World War I happened, which led to World War II, which led to the Holocaust, as we all know. But anyways, the idea of Yom HaShoah was made on the day of the Warsaw Uprising. On the Warsaw Uprising, why? Because, like I said, see, we weren't, as they say, kitzon l'tabach. We weren't like sheep that went to the slaughter. They went ahead and they fought against, and it was done with certain Torah. You should know, it wasn't stam. There were big tzaddikim that did it, and they succeeded very often. And we didn't go like sheep to the slaughter. In other words, the establishment of the idea of Yom HaShoah is to remember that the problem with the Shoah is that we didn't fight back. And I'm trying to say there's a certain mistake in a shkafa here, which I want to bring out, of understanding what this is all about. Now, if this war of Hanukkah was all about just a war, I assure you no one would remember about it. 200 years later, less than 200 years later, there was a Churban Beit HaMikdash. The temple was destroyed. We were thrown out. It wouldn't have remembered. There have been hundreds of wars and rebellions, then thousands, that have occurred in history that people forgot about it. There have been great empires, the Egyptian, the Babylonian, the Greek, Roman, all empires with a lot of rebellions, one after the other, Napoleon. Who remembers all these wars? Nobody remembers them. They're there. They're forgotten the next day, and that's it. They come, they go. Someone who's a history buff, maybe he'll remember a little bit about it. But I meant, these are wars I've not remembered. Why are we sitting here and celebrating and kindling lights continuously every year about a rebellion which really doesn't exist right now? We don't have a Beit HaMikdash right now. It doesn't exist. But it's for this idea, this perspective, to teach us that no, the war happened as a result that we light the lights to always remind us of the nest that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was reminding you, Bubala, I'm here. I'm taking care of you. I'm the one who's behind you. If you put your full trust in me, then you should know this is an incredible idea that the more you put your trust in me, you focus on me, and you care about me, and you realize it's from me, you should know I'm going to take care of you. The more I know and I'm cushioned by my Father up in Shamayim, and I know where it's coming from, and I don't focus on my own strength, I have to do what we call ishtadlut, my own personal effort. But if I don't go ahead and I don't over-focus it on myself, but I realize I'm only a utensil to be able to get there, then I know that I'll be okay. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of me. I'm going to give you a couple examples of this idea, just so we get an example of it. I'm not just talking about the idea of believing in Hashem. It's a lot more than that. It's doing what we're doing, but knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is next to me. And I'll give you a couple good examples of this idea. First of all, there was a person who, surprise, surprise, over here he was making a wedding. And he didn't have the means, the money, to be able to make the wedding. So someone told him a brilliant idea. Go to America. That's a good idea. I didn't think about that one. So go to America, take a plane, and hopefully over there you'll be able, they say, it's the land of milk and honey. No, I'm just kidding. It's a land that, they can go ahead and give away. That was an exaggerated statement. But there's a plan that they'll be able to take care of you over there. Maybe they'll be able to find you something. So he said, okay, I'll try it. There was a guy who spoke a broken English, but able to do it a little bit. He said, I'll do what I can do. So he bought a plane ticket, which was already blowing the budget almost, just to buy the plane ticket. And he was on the plane, and on the way, he was like, what did I do? I didn't even realize. He started having charata, remorse about what he did. I just spent a good amount of money, which I need for this wedding, on a plane ticket. I'm going to land. I don't even know where I'm going, where he's staying, where am I going to collect. He didn't do all the homework, a very inexperienced guy, and he was very, as they say in Yiddish, zubrochen. He was a little bit broken about the whole downtrodden, about the whole entire event. Didn't realize what he's doing. He landed, got his bags and got out, and then he happened to see another Yid. He saw another Israeli that was coming out, and he asked him, can we take a cab together? Can we take me to the Jewish areas? Can you take me to one of these Jewish areas? I'll go with you. Maybe I'll be able to figure out where to go there. I'll go to some Beit Midrash. I don't know. So they went together to Brooklyn, around that area, and he ended up knocking at someone's door. He knocked at someone's door, and the guy took him in, and he spoke for a little while. He gave him something to eat. He gave him dinner, and he gave him something to eat, and they were talking and schmoozing, and he said, so why are you here? He told him, I'll tell you the truth, I have a little bit of a savings, but not enough. I'm marrying off a daughter, and so they told me maybe here I'll be able to find something. So, after sitting with this person for a good amount of time, for about half an hour, he wrote out a check for $15,000. He wrote out a check for $15,000. You guys want to know his address, right? He wrote out a check. I know he's going to call. He wrote out a check for $15,000. He wrote to him. He goes, "This is unbelievable. The golden of Medina. I got that place. This is unbelievable. This is a place. This is a golden place. I couldn't believe it." And that's what he did. He went back home. He said, Baruch Hashem, that was sufficient funds to be able, this must have been a long time ago because $15,000 is not enough anymore. But okay, that was sufficient for what he needed in order to do. And he went back home very satisfied, and there he was. 3 years later, guess what? Another daughter was on the way. Another daughter was getting married. He had another daughter that needed to be married, but this time he didn't even have any backup funding. Last time he had some of his savings. This time this is without saving. He said, Seder, no problem. I got my good pal over there in America. He hopped on a plane, and this time he knew exactly where his address was. He wrote down the address to make sure he remembered. Took a taxi to this person's house, and he knocked on the door, and he said, you remember me? He goes, yeah, sure, I remember you. He invited him in. He gave him something to eat. They spoke for a little while. He told him how things are going and what he's here for. That's very nice. He took out his checkbook and wrote for him $180. He wrote for him $180. Here you go. He looked at it and he goes, you're missing a zero. Like what's going to... Didn't know he said, is everything okay? Whatever. He said, yeah, it's fine. You asked, you mean because last time? I'll tell you, last time, I'm not a gvir, I'm not a super wealthy man. Just last time I was in the middle of going through a difficult situation. He had a certain court case that he was going through, not such an easy situation he was going through, and I made a vow to Kadosh Baruch Hu, I made a shvua that if you let me win this court case, the next person that comes to my door, I'm going to give him $15,000. Obviously, a person collecting for the right reasons, but I'm going to go ahead and give him $15,000. So last time I gave you the $15,000, but now it's $180. That's what I give people. What else do you want? And I said, okay, I understand. You can't complain. As they say, beggars can't be choosers, so to speak, the expression goes. And he went knocking door to door after that. He tried to pull up. He was able to gather together some $6,000 or $7,000. And he ended up coming back a little bit, as they say again, it's a bracha and downtrodden. Expected more. I thought I would get an easy 15 or whatever. At least I thought maybe a little bit extras. Okay, I didn't know. He didn't know what to do. He went to the Rebbe. He went to his Rav. And he told him the story. And he said, Rebbe, what happened? He said, what do you mean what happened? It's obvious what happened. Don't you know what happened? He said, the first time when you flew, you had no idea where you're going, what you're doing. You set your eyes to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and you said, Hashem, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I don't know where I'm going. Please, can you help me? And the Kadosh Baruch Hu said, oh, you want me? And by I'll help you. The next time you were going, Hashem was also there. I said, I davened, and I do what I need to do, said a little bit to Tehillim. He was also in the picture, but really, I knew the address. I'm there, I'm good. I knew exactly where I meant to go. So Kadosh Baruch Hu said, oh, you're okay? He said, take care of yourself. He said, oh, you can go ahead, you're okay. You said it. He gave you $180. Like, what's wrong? You don't know to do that. It's all a matter of perspective. How totally dependent you are on a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that is the extreme, that's the amount of how much siyata d'shmaya you're going to end up getting in order to be able to survive that specific situation. You got it? Now I'm going to give you an example in halakha. This is interesting. From halakha, how can you give you an example to this idea in halakha? So let me tell you an interesting halakha, which brings out an important idea in halakha anyways. The halakha is that if someone comes to your door, you're not really allowed to send him away without paying him. You have to give him something. Now, if it's a gabbai tzedakah, if it's someone who's tam collecting, he's not really a poor person, then it could be you're not chayav. But if a proper poor person comes to your door and knocks, then you should know that you're supposed to give him something. You should give him something, 1, 5, 10, 20 shekel, you should give him something. Okay? It's a problem a little bit in the Beit Midrash when you have so many people coming. You have to know who's really a poor person or not. But Beseder, that's what you're supposed to do. Beseder? Now the halakha is like this. Listen to this. The real halakha, it's a Gemara and it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, is that if a person is missing a certain amount of money, you have to give him all his needs in order to fill up his needs. Guy's making a wedding, excuse me, right? So what do you say? Wait till the end, don't run away before I'm finished, right? But really you're supposed to give him, supplement him to the amount of money that he needs in order to get him back on his feet, in order that he can be there, not just to give him 5, 10 shekel. That's the halakha. However, and this is important with a big H, right? However, there is an addendum to this rule. And that is if it's what we call a person who's over al ptachim. He goes from door to door. He's a guy who knocks on all the doors. He goes from building to building, door to door, and he collects money. So over there, you don't have to give him more than a minimum amount. Give him 5 shekel, give him 10, give him 1, whatever. You can give him a certain amount, give him 20 shekel, 50. You don't have to supply all his necessities. You don't have to fill up all the gaps. What's the difference between the first guy and the second guy? What is the difference between the first guy and the second guy? Either way, if the guy needs it, so why don't I have to pay him the whole amount of money? You hear the question? So you know what the difference is? The difference is The first guy doesn't go collecting the doors. He's embarrassed. He's your brother, he's your sister, your mother, your father, your daughter, your son, your Uncle Joe, whatever it is. Maybe we'll make Uncle Yehuda. I'd rather make him, right? It's a guy who he needs money and he's too embarrassed, and he goes to his dear relative to be able to get a little supplement of money. Now you don't have to break the bank for him, but for him or her, you're supposed to actually give them as much as you can in order to help them out. They are first in line in the priority of tzedakah because they're not going anywhere else. The second guy, when he knocks in your door, he knows you're not giving him the whole amount. He doesn't even expect it. He doesn't know. He'd love it. I'm not saying he's denying it, and you can do it. That's a fantastic thing. But the reason why he's going door to door is because he knows, as they say, pruta pruta mitzaref. He knows, I'll go here, I'll get a few shekels. I'll go here, I'll go here, I'll go here. Hopefully, B'ezrat Hashem, I'll be able to make a chatuna. Hopefully, I'll be able to do something with the amount of money I'm collecting. He'll go to a lot of places in order to do it. You hear the halacha? You hear the difference? What's the difference? When a person goes and he focuses 100% on you, you have to fill him, you have to fill the gaps. You have to take care of him. You have to go ahead and help him to the best extent that you can help him. When the person is not dependent on you, he likes you and you and you and him and it and that and boom, boom, boom. He goes a lot of places. So I'm not obligated to take care of him, Legamri. Everybody together should go ahead and help him out. We all together should go ahead and help him out. That's how it is with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. In as much as my whole sustenance and everything I do, after I do my hishtadlut, after I do what I need, is only focused on one ketovet, on one address, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, oh, that's it? I'm the only one here? I'm the only one in the picture? It's not me and him, it's not me and the guy, it's not me and your boss, it's not me and someone else. If it's that the scenario, so then Kadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, I'll help you out. I'm here. I'll try to do what I can do to try to get you to help you out. As opposed to when we do it and add a few other people into the scenario, that we're boteach b'bnei adam, we also kind of focus on other people, then you should know we're entering other people into the parsha, and that ends up causing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't give it completely to us. We don't fully get it. The one who's going to take care of you for sure is your father, is your mother. They're the ones who are going to take care of you because you know that's it. They know that you're completely dependent on them. A child is completely dependent on their parents. So they know that B'ezrat Hashem, Ima and Abba are going to take care of me. They're not going to go anywhere. They're going to completely, because I have nowhere else to turn. And that's really how our attitude should be towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's really the ideal of what we're focusing on. That's what it says when we say in the Al Nisim, Masarta Giborim Biyad Chalashim, Rabim Miyad Me'atim. We gave over the strong people to the weaker people, the bigger amounts to the smaller amount of people, the Tmeim Biyad Taharim. The people that are Tameh to the people that are Tahor, the pure to the impure to the pure, and the Rishayim Biyad Tzadikim and Zaydim Biyad Oskei Totecha. Those that are, the second half is very obvious. People are Tzadikim, people are busy with Torah, and people are pure. Hashem gave over the bad people. The bad guys, like a good movie at the end, the good guys win and the bad guys die. Sounds good, right? It sounds good, it makes sense, and that's what we're praising to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the question is, what's the first half? Masarte giborim biyad chalashim. You put the stronger ones to the weaker ones, and the more to the less. That's not the same syntax. It's not the same exact thing. But the answer is, it is the same thing. It is no difference. It's because we were the small amount. It's because we were the weaker amount. It's because we were the ones who were the underdog that we realized there is no chance of us winning. The Chashmonaim went into it, like I said, it would be it wouldn't be permitted to do what they did. They did a suicide mission. There is no way logically, but they knew that this is the milchama of Hashem. This is what I need to do, and Hashem is going to back me up. And since they knew that Hashem is going to be behind us, they did what was necessary to be done. And therefore, Gibor and Biyad Chalashim is the same thing is by saying Rishayim Biyad Tzadikim. It's no difference. Just like Hashem gave over Rishayim to Tzadikim, because we were the few, because we were the small amount, Hashem took care of us. He was behind us. We humbled ourselves in front of Hashem, and that's why it's always like this. It's so funny. The Jews have been around the longest religion that's been around. We've been here forever. Why are we still so small? We're 15 million people. This is ridiculous. It's a joke. Why are the Arabs so much bigger than us? They haven't been much. The Muslims haven't been around for 1,000, 1,100 years. The Yishmaelim have been around for a long time, but in the end of the day, where is it so strong? And the Christians are much bigger than us. Even the Buddhists and all this are a tremendous amount of people. Why do they have so many of them? We're so small because Hashem wants, and the Psukim say, you will always be the smallest. Because because I always want you to be humbled. I never want you to think because you're bigger, you're stronger, so therefore you're going to win. I want you to realize you're the smallest. One of the smallest countries, you can't even fit the word Israel in the word Israel. You can't, on the maps, right? It always goes in the ocean. They always put Israel in the ocean. What happened? You can't even fit it on the map. United States of America. You grant the whole thing across. We're such a teeny little place. We make such a mess over here in this small little cute country. What?
Hashem says, I'll make you as many as the stars and the sand.
Right. So that means, if you're asking me, how does that mean? So that's called in what we say quantity and not in quality. It also says that Israel, in the pasuk, uses a reference in the pasuk. It says Eretz Israel is known as a place that's rachav minayam. It's very big and very large. Excuse me? Like, what are you talking about? So the answer is, if this place was a bunch of sand and dirt and domain, so it's a pretty small place. But if, let's say, Eretz Israel is a diamond, this is a humongous diamond. Wow, I wouldn't mind purchasing this one. As a diamond, Eretz Israel is humongous, it's massive. Rachav minayam, there's no bigger diamond than Eretz Israel. And it's like that with the Jewish people. We are as much as the stars, and as much as the quantity of the person, then we engulf the whole world. Look, everybody's talking about us. Everybody cares about us for some reason. This cute little country that's not around, right? So that's when it comes to quantity, it makes that much. But in terms of when it comes to quality, it comes that amount. As opposed to quantity, that's where we claim. Okay. Anyway, so that's this idea. That's the point. Now I told you I would get to the second half of the story. I want to get to the second half of the story because on the sign it said b'schut nashim tzadkaniyot. We always have b'schut nashim tzadkaniyot, and I want to mention how this brings out a little bit of what we are discussing right now. And that is the second half of the story. How did we win this war? Like I said, the first war was won with Matityahu and his sons. When the last grouping came, they had over 50 to 60,000 Greeks that came against a family, more or less. Like I told you, we had 5,000, 6,000. I think a little bit later we had a few more thousand. We were talking about less than 10. Then we had 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people to fight against close to 60,000 people. Like if you're talking to me about grenades and machine guns, I hear maybe we could win. Maybe we'd have a chance to be able to pull that off. But again, hand-to-hand comment, I don't get it. So this is what happened. There was a lady by the name of Yehudit. Okay, but this lady Yehudit, which people have heard her name, but nobody knows the story. So I might as well tell you from the Midrash Ne'elam, about what happens. This is Midrash Chashmonaim. This lady Yehudit was a granddaughter to Matityahu. She was a daughter to Yochanan Kohen Gadol, who was the son of Matityahu. Yochanan Kohen Gadol was a very fair person, very, very nice-looking person. She was a very, very nice-looking lady. She decided that she realized that this feat that they're about to do is a little bit dangerous, and she decided to take initiative. And she was a Kala, by the way. She was a Kala also. She went to the Greek encampments over there before they were about to come soon to go ahead and attack. And she went there, and everybody was like, "Wow, what's she doing? A Jewish lady and this, whatever." But they realized this lady is fit for the general. They came with 3 superpower generals. They came with very strong generals. He sent his best generals. Antiochus sent the most powerful generals that he had. He sent the most powerful generals that he had. So she went into the encampment, and they took her to the highest general that was there at the time. His name was Nicanor. According to, there's 2 different girls, or Bigris or Nicanor. I don't think you guys really care, but anyways, that's what his name. Anyways, so he met this lady, and this Nicanor had some Hasidic blood, because after one shidduch was enough for him. He was ready to close. He wanted to get married, right? He was ready to get married to her, and he said he wanted to get married. So she said, She said, just give me a day to prepare, to go and wash up and get ready. I have to make myself a kala. I have to get ready to get ready for the chuppah, right? So he gave her free reign in the encampment to go out and in and do what she needs to do. I have to go out to the rivers, go out and do what she needs to do. She had free reign to go out and around and out and about to do what she needed to do. And then that night she came, and they had the Shever Bracha together, right? They got out the wine. She brought out the booze, and also, sometimes, according to some Girsa'ot, she actually had gvina. She brought some milky thing. That's why some people have chalavit during this time period. But anyways, so they drank, and she worked it out that he would drink a little bit more than he's usual to drink, which probably meant a lot. And she got him to drink a lot until he became completely stupid, and he dropped absolutely asleep. He was absolutely asleep. Now, before she went out to do this whole event, she let out a prayer, and this is what's written in the Midrash over there. she let out a prayer saying the whole entire time, Ribbonu Shel Olam, she said, just like by Sancheriv, with Sancheriv that you went and wiped out his whole army in one night, I'm asking you that I know what I'm doing is incredibly dangerous and I cannot do this myself, but I'm coming to do this not for myself, only for your kavod, and I want you to go ahead and do rebellion. I only want to be a vessel, a receptacle, in order for you to be able to do it. That's what she said before she left. And now, when he was asleep, she said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I see that you've given me the direction I'm supposed to do, according to basically from the Midrash Hashmonayim, basically. Azor la'avdecha chalashim, I know we're the weaker ones, we're neged oivecha giborim, they're much stronger than us, and just like you've helped us until now, please can you help me to finish up the job? She went ahead and she took the sword out of his sheath, out of his sword out, and she chopped off his head. Back then women had a little bit more of things. She chopped off his head, but it gets gorier than that. Listen to this. Then she took his head and she wrapped it up in a blanket over there, in order to make sure that she could do it. And she slung it over her back and she went out. Now normally that would be a very dangerous feat, but don't forget she was very intelligent. Before this happened, she got free reign to walk around the land. They said, oh, here's the king's wife, the general's wife, so I know not to touch her, you leave her alone. And she had free reign to walk around. So she walked out with his head in the sack, and that's it. And she was able to get back to the camps. She went to Yehuda HaMaccabi, who was the general. I told you Matityahu already passed away. And she opened the head, I guess you wanted to see it, and he said, check this out. She goes, wow, this is good stuff, right? This is fantastic. And he finally realized, wow, and they gave the morale that they can win this war. They realized, because back then, especially, without any type of leader, they couldn't. They went the next day, al boker, as they say, right after davening nets. They went ahead and they fought and they pounced on the Greeks, who went ahead and were ready to fight the war against them. But they realized that their general, and then suddenly they realized that their head was gone. Pardon the pun, right? They realized that the person who was in charge, supposed to run this, wasn't around. And that led them to a complete astray. They were taken aback and confused on what happened. And Baruch Hashem, we were able to vanquish. So from here we see, and you should know, Pi Kabbalah, it's a big idea, you should know. The Chag over here is a women's Chag. It's considered the Koach of the Isha Malchut. Malchut is the Koach of the women. You should know, the Koach of Malucha is Malchut is the receptacle, the one that receives, and that's the bottom, that receives all the Shefa. That's the Koach of the woman, the female. And also, we see that that's why women are chayiv. It's really a mitzvah to say Shazman Grama. This is a mitzvah that is bound by time. But still, women are chayiv because af hem ayu beoto anes. She was able to do a little bit, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu finished off the job. Kadosh Baruch Hu did the rest for us, and we were able to do the rest. She started the dominoes to start rolling, and everything else went from there. It's an incredible hatzlacha to be able to succeed in such a thing. We have to go ahead and do our ishtadlut, but in the right way. Not kochivi otsamiyadi, to know where it comes from. They only did it together with the fact that I knew where it's coming from, and that's why they were able to succeed. Why do I say, like I started the shir, that this is so relevant? You could say a shir in Hanukkah every year, and it's important, and you should, and give chizuk and all that. But if we didn't understand the message I'm saying presently, in the past years, I think there's 1 year that we can do it. Including last year, we wouldn't understand this message. We started off last year, Simchat Torah, with a horrific event that happened. Just like they started horrifically. It was very tragic and dark days. There were many deaths that occurred. I told you 1,000 people in one cave that were killed during that time period when they burned them down, and it was very sad. But they didn't realize it would only lead to eventually them becoming on top, being able to hold on to Judah, to be able to hold on to Eretz Yisrael for another 200 years, to be able to keep the Beit HaMikdash, to be able to keep a holiday that will be held on for generations, because of this incredible Mesirat Nefesh. Something that looked bad ended up being to our Tovatenu, for our good. It's exactly the story of Eretz Yisrael, and especially what we've seen this past year. When we started this war, we were all infuriated, people were upset, and then we said we got to get them. But did you realize how many fronts that we were about to fight? They did. And it was in no way possible. It was no way physically possible. It doesn't make any sense. Hezbollah are people that we never wanted to fight face to face, because everything that Hamas owns is tinker toys. According to the tools, the things that they have by Hezbollah, they have almost, some say 100,000, 200,000. They're two girsaot, 200,000 tilim missiles, ballistic missiles, long range missiles. They can get to Eilat from there. They can get to any single place, and it's done to a perfect dime. They can get to a specific place. We were incredibly endangered in the scenario that we were surrounded by, and it was very scary. We didn't know if we should do this or if it's kedai to commit to such a war. It's incredibly dangerous. Plus, and this is the worst part, they're our neighbors. They're right next door. They took over Lebanon on purpose because they're right next door. You see them. You could see them. The people in the north could see them from their windows, which is incredibly dangerous. Iran, of course, is a big threat, but at least they get some distance. They get a little bit of time till the guys get here. That's A. B, not only is it these two, we also have Iran. We have these funny Taimanim that came out of the picture out of nowhere. These Iraqi, enough. They're coming from all the sides. And again, how big are we? How wide are we exactly? How many people are we? More than that, and people don't even pay attention to this fact, what's humorous almost is that we're people. Right? They're people with jobs. They're people who are learning, or people doing things. We're all people, and they take all those people and go to the army. Everyone go to the army. All people that are normal or in the middle people. The people that are on the other side, exactly like I was speaking out with the Greeks, and I'm showing you the parallels in the scenarios here. These people are born from 2 years old to wield a machine gun. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures, but you have like these little 5-year-olds with a machine gun, and they're showing them how to point and how to aim and how to do this. They mamish, and brainwash is not the word. Brainwash is when you start a cult. When you do what they're doing is to the extremes that are not there. They completely make them psychotic. Okay, now the amount that they're going ahead and they're willing to go ahead and kill themselves because, as I was told, that they go ahead and show them kvarim, they show them graves, and they say, see this? This is where you're supposed to go. This is your mitzvah d'oraita. See here? This is where you're supposed to go. This is the mitzvah. If you get here, you and Allah are in the same place. You are in the same place. But anyways, that's it. You're supposed to go to the same idea. So everything they're doing, we literally are surrounded by not just so many fronts and so much money that they have being given over to them, but a bunch of lunatics. That's what I'm saying. It was a war that has if they all came at one time, everybody agrees we had no chance. And if you look at the predictions at the time, they were venturing tens, 20s of thousands, even to open the mouth to say such thing of fatalities or deaths or injuries of what could happen in this country, or the amount of damage that would occur. And here it is. And Nes Nigla, I don't have to tell you what happened. It's such soon history. You don't have to watch the news, but now let's learn history. You know what I'm saying? Look at what happened over here. They didn't do it at one time. One went after the other. It was in a perfect scenario that one went. One's falling after the other. We did Shaladu, and here we have Syria did it Shalad. Kodesh Baruch Hu took care of the next part. Yehudi did a little bit, and the rest happened afterwards. It just fell into place. We did this, and then Kodesh Baruch Hu takes care of the rest afterwards. It's exactly the same story. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when we started this war, again, you have to be careful when you listen to the news, but when we started this war, we really came from a point of the fact that it's Mi kamocha b'kelim Hashem. Mi l'Hashem alai. It was completely a focus on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was an onata tzitzit, they called it. All the soldiers were wearing tzitzit, whether they were religious or not. The tefillin that was being put on, and the biyachad and netzech was real. There was a real itachdut. There was a real connection. People all say, oh, that achdut fell away. I disagree. I still think there's a tremendous amount of achdut. I just think the leftists were never on the side of achdut. They're always into trying to make a war, and they're exactly the Hellenized. Okay, the Hellenists never took our side, no matter where we were. So Beseder, the Smolenim, the leftists are still in their same place. They haven't decided to change their position. But the energy and the strength that we had came from the fact that we completely were mevatel ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We knew that it only came from Hashem, and it was a very comforting idea. And Hashem said, oh, me? You remember me? Hashem said, okay, I'll help you out. I'll take care of you. Hashem said, oh, you're in my court right now. It's not just an idea of kochav yotzim. You realize that it completely... Now, how did we get to this stage? Yes, we got to the stage because something miraculous happened. What happened on Simchat Torah, we all know, was literally a miracle in the wrong way, but it was a miracle. It was not normal. I don't have to tell you all the details, but to go ahead and break their offense like that with so much guarding, and they knew also, and they were preparing, and this, for all that to happen was just out of this world. But Kodesh Baruch Hu does these things for a reason. He does it so that we start making us take a realization on understanding that no, it doesn't have to do dafka with my own strength, but to go ahead and focus in the right direction. To go ahead and collect tzedakah from one door. I go to one door. I'm not going to any other doors. I'm going to that one address, and that's it. To go ahead and say that I don't know where I'm going, I don't know where I'm flying, I'll get there, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu will help me. I'll just do what I can do. We'll do what I can do. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu goes, and He takes care of us. And the biggest of all, with this I'm finishing basically, but the biggest of all it is the team playing. We spoke about before the difference between the Romans and nowadays how sports work. Nowadays our sports teams are team players, and there's a lot more to it. I'm not telling you to play sports or advertise for it, that's not my idea. But I'm trying to say at least there's a big difference. The whole idea of the Greek Empire was to go ahead and bring out the individual strength to work on myself and how powerful I am. We don't work like that. We work as team players. The whole power that we have is when we work as a group, biyachad, when we work together as a whole. And how do you become one whole? When we all focus on one person, one HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That you don't realize this is an exhilarating, liberating, and exciting feeling when a person really puts his strength in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only are you not alone anymore, not only are you only in the basket of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you're with everybody else. You're with everybody else who's there by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're all in the same team. We're all the same fans of the same place. It's a really good feeling. I have someone who's rubbing shoulders with me. I have people on my side. And with that, we are menatzeach. With that, we are able to succeed. We have a tremendous amount of Siyata Shmaya. This year was a miracle year. There's nothing left to go, nothing better. And when you light the lights during Hanukkah, we should be realizing this idea. The whole idea, Hanukkah is the only Chag that happens in the middle of the winter, in the darkest part of the year. It's dark, it's cold, the days are very short, and and that's what happens. And we go ahead and we light the lights in order to say that no, even in that time we see strength, we have energy. It brings out a tremendous amount of our capabilities that we can go ahead and bounce back in the most despairing of times. And that source of light only came because of what I told you, because we went ahead and together we were able to get together and do everything. It's incredible. When Ukraine got into a war, do you know how many refugees we had from Ukraine over here? And don't even ask in America how many people were running away from the war. I understand what happened. Simchat Torah happened. Do you know how many people were jumping on planes to be able to get here? They had to go ahead and people were buying tickets and this, and someone was supporting tickets to be able to get on planes here so they could find the war. Have you ever seen something like that in the history of mankind? Literally, in the history of mankind, you will never see it in any history book. It doesn't happen. You're flying the wrong direction. When there's a war, you go the other way, not this way. Where are you going? Plus, I'm trying to tell you, we're not the size of the Ukraine. Ukraine's humongous. I go hide in some corner somewhere over there. There's nowhere to hide here. Over here, wherever you go, there's nowhere to run around there to hide. That's what happened. When we work as a team and we worked as biyachad, so then we were able to succeed. We were able to come out with it. But when we do the other direction, when we're focusing on ourselves, when we're focusing on our kochot, so then we end up losing everything. The two words, people on my shir moles know, I hate these two words. They're the most loathful words that I've ever heard, and I used to say it even before Simchat Torah, but now at least it proved itself on Simchat Torah, Lo Aleinu, is when they said the line, never again. Never again is the worst kfir that a person can say. It's the most incredible heresy that a person can say. Never again. It says who? Who? You decide? We're never going to let something like that happen again. They're referring to after the Holocaust. In Kol Kavod, it was only one day, Baruch Hashem, it wasn't many days. The Holocaust was 4 and a half years. But it was a day of a Holocaust. We had another Holocaust. Don't say never again unless you know, unless they meant never again because the Kodesh Baruch Hu was behind us. We have Amun and the Kodesh Baruch Hu. He's going to take care of us. Then, okay, then I hear. But somehow I have a feeling that wasn't the intentions. Okopanim, this is the koch of the Chag, and this is what we're appreciating when we're lighting the lights, and we're seeing even in a time that we went through, and even though, in the beginning it looked very dismal, but at least lemafrei in retrospect, when we look back, we see, wow, there was a tremendous success here. We've gotten rid of all of our biggest enemies. We feel a little bit more safe now. Okay, and it's fine. It's good to feel that way. We've gotten rid of, slowly but surely, the domino effect is happening one to the next to the next. And soon, don't worry, Iran is on his way out also, and the Houthim and all these other idiots are going to be gone. And that's it. And when they're gone, you feel a certain place of Baruch Hashem, Mashiach is on his way. He's mamash here. He's just taking his steps as they do one after the other. And that's how we see it. I'll end with a mashal that I one time saw, but it comes out so perfect. Well, that will finish. Is by the dreidel. As we all know, Nes Gadol Hayapo. It speaks about the great miracles that we saw in Hanukkah. Nes Gadol Hayapo. Did you ever think about the fact that when you spin the dreidel, you can't see the letters? Psst, you can't see the letters. Only when it stops, suddenly you're able to see the Nes Gadol Hayapo. When it finishes, now I can see it. But when it's spinning, we don't know why we're spinning. Our heads are spinning from the news. Our heads are spinning from day to day. Every day what happens is unbelievable how things advance and change on a constant basis. And things are unusual, and things are spinning. But when the dreidel stops, Nes Gadol Hayapo. And then we start realizing, Be'ezrat Hashem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bring us out of this galut, and we should see Mashiach Mimra B'Yameinu. Amen.